Live. Good morning. Technical difficulties. So welcome to today's episode. Just a quick 30-minute episode today of AI Applied, Light Magic AI Applied, where we basically just talk through different use cases that we've been working on, how we kind of do those, the thought processes behind them, and we're just kind of, showing you guys the behind the scenes of how we actually put this stuff into action. So we'll do a quick intro here. I'm Tyler Fisk, one of the co-founders of Light Magic AI, and we'll go ahead and hand it on over to Josh.
Hello.
This morning.
So good. Josh Houston, co-founder at Light Magic AI here, and like building stuff, but also bridging that gap between technical, non-technical folks. And that's a bit about me. And
hey everybody, I'm Ann Murphy. I'm also one of the co-founders of Light Magic AI, and my domain expertise is in nonprofit fundraising. So I'm always looking for ways to, hold on, we got dogs going in and out. So I'm always looking for ways that we can use AI responsibly in all sorts of applications, but especially ones where we're able to help people build donor trust, which looks all sorts of different ways. But one of the ways it looks is not deteriorating donor trust with how we implement AI and automations. One of the things that came up for me recently and that we're going to talk about today is, we've been thinking about the three of us and our three other co-founders have access to some of the most impressive AI tools in the world. And we're fortunate to have among our partners some of the most brilliant minds in AI platforms. And so in many ways, the world is our oyster, but that does not mean that we should AI-ify everything, like within our own businesses and with our clients. And so we've been adding a layer of discipline to our decision-making around either offering to our clients or installing in our own business different AI solutions. And there's one that came up recently that we're going to share about today. And for me, it is an idea of featuring. So this is like, I'm going to use the idea that I'm applying in my world because we're also going to use it for Light Magic once we get it get it refined. But so my idea was that once a week I would publish a LinkedIn post highlighting 3 women in AI. And in some ways that sounds like a really easy project. But for folks who make content on a regular basis, it's really easy to get onto this like content machine where you just are always trying to feed the monster. And so then you start thinking more critically about like, why am I doing it? So as I started, I was like, oh, well, let's just make it easy. And then when I started working with Josh on business operations excellence, it was like, wait, it's not just about making it easy, because that just might mean making a bad idea go do more of it. So we walked through the process, and I'm going to hand it over to Josh to talk about like what are some of the decision-making spots in when you're deciding to add AI solutions to stuff.
Love it. It all goes back to the brand. Like, we don't talk about brand too much because we're not like a marketing agency, but I come from that world. And in the world of branding, people think design, logos, colors, all that stuff, but it's the experience that you and your customers share. And with AI, we have to think about this because we're putting experiences either for our team in place with these tools and workflows and automations, or we are going to our customers and sharing experiences with them that we're including and inviting AI tools and technology into. And so there's a lot at stake because we can see the use cases go awry. I think the biggest one currently is the Chevy dealership that sold a Yukon for $1 in their ChatGPT integration, allegedly. Like, we can see those like out in front and like kind of fail forward use cases and laugh and be like, oh, well, AI is not there yet. But the reality is without going straight to like what's the most in front of people, what's the most like exciting and shiny deliverable, like that's where we start when we talk about operational excellence, is like, what's the stuff that has to get done that's really tedious, that's repetitive, soul sucking, and you have good language around this, like work that makes you not want to like work.
Makes you feel dead inside.
Yeah. And going for those tasks, because if you're negotiating with somebody about a task that they hate and you're like, would you be open to us addressing this with some sort of automation, some sort of AI solution? It's always a resounding yes if you start here. Like, there's work that we hate collectively. Like, I hired someone else to do it because I didn't want to or didn't have the time or bandwidth to. And then what we get to do with like the AI strategy side is like shift that same conversation down the chain. So in Anne's business, her team members get to have that conversation. Like, what would you do if you had an assistant? What would you do if you didn't have to do the soul sucking task here that just has to get done, and you're doing a great job at it, but it's like not the thing you would maximize your workspace around, right? So when we're looking at like the strategy coming into like, what should we do? It's never what we'll start with. What could we do? Because that's fun. Like, it's really fun to talk blue sky, like what's possible. What would we love to see go away? And then we get really specific on like what's the in between, like when data moves, when something goes from one tool to another. Yes. Yes, Robert, we're all there. No, the repetitive tasks can eat it, in my opinion. What needs to be done over and over again, right? Like that's where we'll start to look at like, is there a really boring AI solution we could implement? Like the use case we're talking about today, doing research about people, getting the information and organizing that. Good task, necessary for doing high quality work, improving the quality of our output. Tedious, repetitive, time sucking activity that we could honestly redirect someone towards something that's more valuable with their context, their knowledge, their background, versus just intake info. So that's the use case we'll talk about through today. But this whole conversation starts with, what can we do? What should we do? And out of the what should we do list, like prioritization is like, what's the hottest button? Like, what's the most pertinent piece that's taking the most time, or that hurts the most, that's the most obnoxious? That's where we'll go. And then normally start with like, let's build it. Let's get an automation in place. Let's start testing. Can we take what our team knows about, or that team employees and leaders knows about that process and that task, organize their current way, and then look to supercharge it, make it go faster, make it go more efficient. And the byproduct of this is that we unlock new things that people can focus on, new things they can spend their time doing. And on an end-to-end level, that's what unlocks like people's potential, is the fact that we can remove the tedium and unlock their creativity. So Tyler, do you want to talk through like kind of some of the nuts and bolts of this specific solution?
Yeah, for sure. So like, just one other point on what you were saying too, is that like finding the stuff that it's not even necessarily that you hate, it's finding the things within the work that you're doing that you just either don't have time to get to, or just it is the draining portion of it. Because like for me, I love making content. I think Ann loves making content too, but it's challenging because like at the volume that you need to make content on top of everything else we have to do to make our businesses run, like that is the bottleneck. And so to remove the bottleneck, it's like, well, what can we do to like get this a couple steps down the path here for the process to like complete the content piece. So and you want to like,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so like this was like, essentially you were going to find 4 people each week that you really wanted to shout out in the community, ladies specifically, and then having to go do all the research on them. Either you or one on your staff is going to have to do that, right?
Yeah, so like this actually highlights another example of like when you can find out the good things that will happen by inserting some AI into it. So here's what I learned in this process. So I was pitching to my team that after the first of the year, we're going to start doing a regular series where we're going to talk about multiple women in AI. And everyone's like, yeah, that sounds great. Awesome. Who's doing it? Who's doing what? Who's doing this piece, that piece, the other piece, the other piece? And because it's not insignificant to do research on multiple people every single week. You've got to have a pipeline. You're representing other people, so it's got to be high quality. You want to have an original, like eye-catching post. If you're going to do this, you want to do it right. And there's 52 weeks in a year. So this is actually, it's like an entrepreneur's little like, brain blip, but it's also a whole big work project for everybody else on the team. And so as we were talking about it, I realized the reason why Kate, who is our coordinator, Kate wanted us to use AI and automation because she doesn't want to clean up after the messes that I make when I do it by hand. And that is a new breakthrough for me of like, how many times you've got like a partnership, two people working on something, and it's like, yay, that's cool that you have all the vim and vigor and you're super excited and you're passionate about it, but you screw it up every single time, and then everybody else has to fix it. So having that opportunity to make things routine is not just about speed, it's also about quality, and it's about relationships. So now Kate knows I'm going to use the AI. I'm not going to make a whole bunch of mistakes. The errors that she'll be cleaning up are minimal versus if I'm cutting and pasting and putting the wrong people's names in the wrong people's places. So that's the project. And that's another benefit of it, teamwork. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. The beauty of that, like through the strategy process of even just addressing workflows, process, step by steps in your business, you uncover those things that your team knows.
Yes.
She knows there's a problem, but you haven't talked about it before.
We hadn't talked about it before.
Good or bad. I mean,
right.
That's not the point. But the conversation hadn't happened when we start to zoom in on these things and look at the way we work, the way we work can change. Yeah. And there's almost every single time a conversation that we have where those dots get connected and someone's like, well,
finally,
like to your point at the very beginning, is this something we should accelerate or should we rearrange the steps?
Right.
And remove some fluff from that process. Exactly. So I had to interject because that is a byproduct of doing the work that if you just hire a builder, they're going to build exactly what you want them to build. If you can do everything you want, they might not impact the way you actually do the thing besides speeding it up. Because you're not having those conversations. You're not sitting there talking through best practice. What's the best thing for us? Sorry, Tyler.
So let me pull this up here. Let me share my screen. We're going to go here. Boom. Get it ticked on. Here's Infinity window. All right. Can you all see Respell now?
Yeah.
All right. Sweet. So Michael on our team actually put this together, and Anne has got a prompt that we've been teaming up on here. She's got it all put together, and we're going through making notes and then testing it to see how we need to update it. And then Michael went ahead and already split part of this out. But essentially what this looks like from the front end is that we'll have like a LinkedIn profile link, the person's name, and any additional notes that we want to drop into this prompt flow. And he's even got it set up now so that it can just be done over here in a Google Sheet. So he just puts in a name and the URL, and it should trigger the flow back to Respell. And then let's see, then it will run it. So let me come back over here into the actual spell. So what it's doing then is it's taking the LinkedIn profile URL and the person's name. It's writing that into the prompt here that's feeding into this AI research agent. The agent is then going to the LinkedIn profile page, like essentially scraping or reading the entire page. And then the output from that not only comes here so we can see what it did, it goes into the next step of the prompt chain where it's taking that and the additional notes that we gave it to write what is it? I think is it 50 to 60 or 60 to 70 character bio about that person. And that's the final output. And then once that's done, we've just got this set up so that it lands back over here into Google Sheets. And so, for instance, like for Michael, it wrote, J. Michael Schmidt is a seasoned chief community scientist at Nation Builder. He brings the power of neuroscience and data science to the realm of community building. His meticulous blend of science and technology fosters dynamic, inclusive communities, driving innovative social influence follow him for insights on, let's see here, it's cut off there, on technology-driven community engagement. Like, pretty good. Like, for our first pass at this, like, these are pretty good. We ran one for Anne and for Suzanne, one of our friends too. And it's like, the issue that we've run into thus far is not that the quality of the bio is off. It's more of making sure that when it goes out on the internet and it looks at the LinkedIn profile or searches the person's name, because the next step of this is that we're going to see if we can have it go out and look on the internet to find more than just what's on their LinkedIn profile, to pull that back into the prompt chain as like additional information. But the problem you run into that, like even Michael said, like when he was at, where was he at? Was he at Columbia doing his work there? There was more than one Michael Schmidt at Columbia at the time he was there, even in the same department that he was in. So like the research agent doesn't know that. And that's where we're trying to build and work on additional steps in here that will go back to double check and verify that the person who it found is actually the correct person. So thank you. Yeah, so that is that. Let me switch back over here off this and turn this off so you guys can see me. There we go. But like that's the phase one. Like that's the first draft of this. Like the next step is then we'll have those bios go land into like whatever posting software we want that to be, along with the actual, like the first draft of Anne's like actual LinkedIn post too. And it's tricky because like most LLMs are not great at math. So if you tell it to do like 50 to 60 words, if you just tell it that, most likely you're not going to get in that range. So you have to put like little examples in there to show it actually what 50 to 60 words looks like. And if you don't have that, one hack that I found that works too is that you can just go to a lorem ipsum generator and have it generate. It doesn't matter if it's English or not, because you can tell it in the prompt. This is just an example of like a sentence structure this long, and to base it off of that, not using it as like part of the context for the actual output, but just more of like, this is what this length looks like. Yeah. With the end goal of this being that it's going to land in Hootsuite and then ping you, right? And I think that's what we determined you wanted to do on this.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a perfect example of like, that's what I think is the best way to do it. But until we do it for a little while, we won't know. And the goal is like, we nail this down for one of us, and then we start getting the big economies of scale when you install that into somebody else's organization or into a whole bunch of clients or into a whole bunch of, other consultants. So like some of the things that we do for ourselves, we're doing it just because we want to make sure it works before we offer it to our clients. We have lots of people who talk to us about, why can't the content process be easier, faster, better, more effective, whatever. And I mean, these are like bajillion-dollar questions, but this process of thinking it through has been incredibly like eye-opening for me. It could have almost been any excuse under the sun to slow down the way we look at and talk about our business operations. But hallelujah that it is that the reason is because we're going to get some relief or some boost or some business growth after we've gone through this, How do you guys decide when you're thinking about, like, for a business owner, how do you decide like how much money they should spend on a solution?
It's the like hot button question everybody has, because when someone comes to the pipeline, they're like, what's the number? It's always an it depends, right? Because you got to look at a few different like angles. One angle is efficiency, easiest to track. How much were you spending on it before? The second thing that's a little harder to calculate, but can definitely be fleshed out, is what sort of value does this create for you? Not just in this one task, but what else can you unlock now? right? Like if the coordinator can focus more on customer service, which opens up more revenue flow, then this solution is now multiplied. Like the value of the solution multiplies by like, oh, new opportunities we couldn't touch before.
Yes.
And then you look at like technical complexities of like, is this a no code? Is this an automation? Is this a bunch of prompt engineering? Is this custom modeling? Is, you know, we start to go through these technical like checkpoints of like, do we need to bring in a senior dev on this or an architect who's going to give this amazing solution architecture that's going to do the task and do it to the quality we're talking about? Those are the factors we think about and we kind of talk through with them, because with as accessible as AI technology is to the people now, the floor of getting things stood up is lowering. Every single new product that releases lowers the floor for that particular task. Custom solutions are easier to build with no-code platforms. Stringing together prompts and prompt engineering is getting easier as we develop more technology and solutions. And all of that is still kind of nebulous to, like, it's not commoditized at all. Like you can go on a, you know, Fiverr and find someone who will do something for $100. You could go on to Fiverr and find someone who would do the same thing for 10K. You could find someone on Fiverr who would do it for 100. Like, it's, you know, in the no code realm, like this range is so nebulous that we just talk through these things, and we'll try and like anchor to, bless you, we'll anchor to how much value we know we can create for this specific company over the course of now, but also in the years to come, to unlock their people to focus on more things. And we'll try and snag a percentage of that.
So when you say value, do you mean time saved, aggravation, you know, saved? Do you mean new business opportunities? When you think about the word value, what do you mean?
Looking at like total productivity, I think is a good way to think about it, which would be defined as like what your company gets done across the board. If this task is necessary task, but it's not that large, it's not going to impact, like this one thing may not impact the larger like metric of productivity across the board, but it starts to serve as a domino effect. Normally when we come in, we're not just looking at one solution. We're going to combine a bunch of things that are like this whole laundry list of tedious tasks that the team does, which could unlock a whole group's time, effort, energy. So it's kind of up in the air. I mean, every project's different. Every client has their own, like, what they think it should be. Some people are just in mindset wise, like, oh, well, how much time does this take you guys? And it's like, I could build an automation that generates $5,000 of value a month in your pocket as a small business. I could do that in 10 minutes with the right like know-how. I don't want to get paid for my time necessarily here. Like, yeah, we'll stay in the value side of things, because otherwise it time's a commodity, you know, and it's at that point, how much is someone going to stomach if they are in that mindset? Like, you're thinking of all these things as cost elements, not investments in your company and the growth. If you want, go ahead, Tyler.
Sorry, I was gonna say, like, the other thing that we can do too, that's like just from like a business owner's point of view. So like for Anne in this exact specific instance, she's trying to create more content. She has a series specifically she's trying to do to not only like lift up other folks in the space, but then also drive engagement on her own like profile as well. So like that's really easy to track. Like, it's easy to map back to those posts to see exactly how much engagement are you getting. We could even run UTM links like as part of this too, so that if you send people back to your site or to a different URL or whatever, like what the click-through rate on that is. And then once you've got folks clicking through that, then you can see, did that map back to some sort of like, did we make money here? Essentially, that's the bottom line in business is like, did it make money? Like, what was the ROI on it? Is like what most people are going to be looking for. So it's the efficiency gained of like, now we're able to do these things and be able to do it 52 times in a year, like what you're wanting to do. And we can also see like, okay, what kind of business did it drive? Either both through like engagement, number of followers that came on because of this, number of comments, shares, like all that stuff. And then even the step beyond that, like if we put links in there, did we drive that back to your site or to wherever it is we're wanting to send them? Did that turn into dollars somewhere down the line? Yeah.
So there's so many ways to determine value of something. One of the ones that I've been wondering about in our recent conversations, you guys, what are people saying about their competition? Is that a motivating factor as people think about AI solutions? Are they like, I want to do this because other people are doing it in my industry? Or are they like, I want to do this because I want to be the first? Or what? What's coming up with that?
I've seen both in everything from like real estate all the way to insurance and everything in between, that it's been, people are seeing, it's becoming more common for people to start rolling out AI in one way or another or talking about it. And so there's definitely like the FOMO feeling of like, if we don't get something in place somehow, then, you know, we're going to get left behind in some way, which, you know, I think is accurate to some extent, but I mean, I'm biased in that I think AI is pretty important and you should incorporate it into your business. But yeah, there's also like first movers for sure, because some of the people that I've worked with in real estate specifically, it just comes top of mind. They were very early on. Like we were doing this in January this year. I mean, ChatGPT just came out in November. And so for them to make the business decision and have an entire year under their belt of what that looks like, that's big. And if you did that in the correct way, that can get you a grab of market share or a lead that's hard to catch up to. So that's something to think about for sure.
Mm-hmm. Josh, any concluding thoughts?
I really like what you said there, Tyler. I thought you covered it. So no, like it all comes back to the experiences that we design, like the way people work within your company, the way that your company interacts with its customers, the relationships that you form and manage and steward. Like every solution is going to impact one of those levels, and it's worth taking the time to go through the tedious conversations and even the hard conversations of like getting face first with maybe the way I've been doing it is actually a problem, like both at a leader level, but also within an organization. Like that's very, very common when we go digging, but being willing to go through that leads to a better place. And hopefully everybody in the process can work through to a better future. That's the like optimism, like I always like hold on to.
Yeah.
You're building something.
These are the conversations that we have. So when people come to us and they're like, we want to AIify this part of my business, we sit down and we talk about these different stages of it, right? What's the impact down the road? What's the impact now? Do you really want this? Do you really need this? How much does it cost? How much value? How do you define value, et cetera, so that we're not just like receiving an inquiry and then building something and sending it back out to folks. We're your partners in the whole thing from point A to point Z. And we have an intensive that we're doing. So folks can reach out to us and get signed up to go through this process with us. We start with an assessment to learn a little bit about your AI readiness. Then we will sit down and talk about some of the pain points and what some of the options are. And we'll provide you with a roadmap for 2024 of what some of your really good options are, where you're going to get a lot of return on investment. For mostly what I'm experiencing so far is it's not some of this is just like the ugly duckling technology improvements. Like they're just incremental things that you can tweak. Some of it's massive, and that's kind of on the other side of an intensive. But in this first phase, working with folks like us, you'll get some ideas for what to do. You'll know why. You'll know that it's like been well vetted, and you'll have a game plan for 2024. So if people are interested in exploring kind of this thought process, we have a QR code there. So anytime you're watching this, you can scan the QR code and you can get in touch with us in our DMs. We're around. We're on LinkedIn. We're on TikTok. This is streamed to 57 other places. So if you're seeing us there, get in touch with us there. So yeah.
Yeah. And also lightmagic.ai is the other place to check us out on there. So
Lightmagic.ai.
learn a little bit more about us, what we do, and then also get to the intensive on there, because sometimes QR codes can be a pain in the butt, but it's a cool thing that you can do on Restream for sure.
Oh,
Good stuff. Good stuff, y'all.
Well, I think that wraps it for today. So we will be back. Let's see, for the rest of the week, we've got tomorrow, we have the full team for an hour for our AI hour. Like, what are we calling that on Wednesdays? I don't even remember. That's
Light
hundreds.
Magic AI live. Yeah, just
Live.
exactly what's on the tin. Yep.
There we go. And then we'll have another AI applied on Thursday, same time, same place. And then Friday is our our communal session, I guess is the best way to put it, where we post the Zoom link. The Zoom gets streamed all over the ether, and you guys get to come up and hang out with us and chat all things AI. Or just last week was a lot of fun. Like, we talked about some of the stuff that just happened, and then we got deep quick talking about ethics and education, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah,
Nice.
would
Yeah.
love to see everyone coming around, and check out LinkedIn or wherever you follow us on social to stay in tune for those.
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, you too.
And we're out of here. See y'all.
Bye.